So the last thing I'll be looking at on personal effectiveness, which is a standalone topic, is what can stop that personal effectiveness apart from everything that we have looked at, and that is conflict. Conflict is an important topic, and we have to look into it. And what is conflict? Conflict just means divergence. Divergence means difference. Divergence of goals. Yeah, another way to put it is difference in interest. Take for instance, I have a car, or not just my car. We have a car in a company, and there are 4 of us in the company. We want to use the car. I want to use the car to go to gym. My colleague wants to use the car to go and visit a customer. Another colleague wants to use the car to go and see his girlfriend. But the car was bought for us to use, by the company. And we're allowed to use it even for personal purpose, let's say. So who is going to take the car? That's going to be a conflict because 3 of us wants to use the car for different interests, for different goals. The question is, how do you resolve that? So the same thing happens in an organization. Organization would have set goals to say, we want to make profit. Take for instance, I like $30 million profit. But there are different departments in the organization. You have production. What does production do? They produce, which means they will spend money to buy raw materials and pay staff. You have finance department, which are finance control. They try to save money because they want to squeeze out the best value from the money. So they are doing control. You can see this guy wants to spend, but this guy wants to save. That is conflict immediately. So if you are not aware, you might wonder why some meetings go the way they go. You must understand that sometimes there are conflicts in an organization. But the good thing is, this conflict that we are talking about is not always bad. Sometimes they are good. Sometimes they can be bad. When they are good, that means it's for the interest of the organization. And that is called constructive conflict. Like if the finance guy says, no, production, you want to spend 20 million on these raw materials. No, we won't approve budget for that. We think you should go look for another supplier who can sell the same material cheaper. So you can see they are arguing, but production guy might say, no, I want this, but because finance guy is pushing back, it's for the interest of the organization, this profit. Because this now makes production guy to go and look for another supplier who can produce and give us similar quality of raw materials but at a cheaper price. So that's a constructive kind of conflict, but can be also bad. And if it is bad, it is destructive. Most time, destructive comes from personal influence. So there's a personality involvement. So this is usually influenced by personality. I don't like him. I don't like her. I don't like the manager. And this is not good for the company. So when conflict is coming because people don't like themselves, then that is bad. Because eventually it's the organization that will suffer. Please take note. Likewise, it can also be intrapersonal conflict, which means even within one person, you can have conflict, intrapersonal, between you. Think about it. A very good example is an adult life. An adult life, you want to make money, At the same time, you want to play, you want to have fun. So how do you spend your time? There's conflict. You need to choose what you spend time on. Whether you go and work so that you can make money, or you want to play and no money, or you want to balance the two. So you must learn how to resolve that conflict, because that's a conflict. So you can have likewise, even in career, people have interpersonal conflict. They want their time, at the same time they want to do very lucrative or very challenging job. Like my friends in account closing, monthly closure activities department, you see them, by the time the month is going to an end, they're at work till 10 p.m., 11 p.m. It's the nature of their work. That will conflict with you want to have your time. So if you want to do that kind of job, then you must let go of your time. Right. It can also be interpersonal. That is when you have 2, 3, 4 people having conflict. So between more than 2 people. This is one person, remember? Now more than 2 people. And you can also have intergroup. Intergroup is when you have between more than 2 teams or group. Yeah, like production team, finance team. Yeah. Where can this conflict come from? Causes. Where do they come from? The first one is a communication barrier. Communication barrier. When the parties don't understand themselves, it's a problem. You can pass information across that is misunderstood. The other party might think you are saying what you are saying. You don't want to give me budget to buy the raw materials because you don't like me. Maybe when the finance guy was talking, he was looking so hungry and upset, and the guy in production thinks there's a personality involvement. And that is actually a very good source of conflict, because the guy might be angry and upset, and the finance guy didn't mean that harm, but the production guy has misunderstood him. Another cause is unresolved conflict. If we had conflict before that we have not resolved, definitely we'll carry it forward and to affect us in the future. Because when you say something lightly, I will misinterpret it because we had an history. And the history of unresolved conflict is bad. If you have reward system as well that favors one group than the other, then you are setting them up for conflict. Reward system can cause it. If you say the people in commercial will get more money when the company makes profit than the people in production, then you don't want the production guys to work, because they believe that whatever we produce is what commercial will sell, and commercial guys that now eventually gets the money. So that's already going to create conflict amongst those two groups. They won't like themselves. Also, goal difference. When we have different interests, that is already a conflict. So if we are chasing the same different thing, there's already a conflict. Finance is chasing to save money. Production is chasing to spend money so that it can produce so much. That is a conflict. So that kind of conflict must be properly managed. And that is why it's always good to ensure that different departments understand how what they are doing fits into the organization goal, which is one goal. One goal, one vision, one mission, and the organization is home and dry. The last one is resource scarcity. And the popular one is money. Money is always scarce. And because of that, people will compete for it. Also, time is also scarce. You don't have more than 24 hours a day. So everything will compete for that time. Ladies and gentlemen, so because of that, I have bad news and I have good news for you. So it's not just bad, but there's also good news. And what is the bad news? The bad news is that conflict can never be avoided. Cannot be avoided. But the good news is that it can be managed or resolved. And the gentleman that taught us about the styles of managing conflict, the man is called the Thomas Kuhlman. I tell my students, the way to remember is that this guy kills conflict. So Kuhlman, he's not killing man, but he's killing conflict. So this is the third guy I'm introducing to you in my series of PT. Remember, we looked at those two guys earlier on Cobb when we're talking about learning styles. Yeah. So Thomas Kuhlman is what we are looking at now, that taught us 5 styles of managing conflicts. And he says these 5 styles, individuals can be using any type of style because it depends, your style depends on the nature of individual. Except they try to get better, or they are conscious of themselves and they try not to exhibit the weakness or the bad side that might not help the organization. So it depends on the nature of the individual. Yeah, and what are we talking about? Because the nature of individual tells us whether they are going to be assertive or they are going to be cooperating. So depending on how this person is, whether it's going to be very assertive person or very cooperating or mix of the both, will determine the style of that conflict resolution. So when you have 2 people in conflict, their personality will come into play, and the way that conflict is going to be resolved depends on their approach. I'll put on x-axis, I'm going to looking at the matrix here. On x-axis is the level of cooperation. I'll say it's low here and it's high here. Here we talk about assertiveness. Here it is low, and here is high assertiveness. Now, when there is low cooperation and low assertiveness, the method or the style we are referring to there is avoidance. So that means both parties are avoiding themselves. They don't want to confront each other. So there's no discussion, there is no resolution. So here they are trying to ignore. And what they are saying is that time will heal. Interesting. So time will heal the conflict. Nobody wants to talk about it. Whereas, if they are both willing to cooperate and they want to find a middle ground, you say they are staying in the middle here. Middle of assertiveness and cooperation. They are both moving into the middle. And here you say they are compromising. Because here you have decided to stay in middle ground. Which means both of us will suffer something and both of us will gain something. Compromising. However, one person can decide to use another method, which is high cooperation and low assertiveness. So he's letting go and that is accommodating. One person is letting go. Yeah? So usually this happens when that person admits that it's wrong and is not being forceful because he admits he is wrong. There's no point arguing and making the conflict prolonged. So in that case, it's accommodating the other person. It's cooperating because he doesn't want to be assertive. He has agreed he's wrong and they are moving on. Another way is when you have a situation when one person is so assertive and is not willing to cooperate. Low cooperation, high assertiveness. That is called competing. That is called competing. Competing is you're struggling to win. That's what you want to do. Must win. And if you must win, the other person must lose. So one must win and other must lose. Sometimes you take this kind of decision in an organization. You use this style, especially if you want to make a very, very important decision that you think people will not like it. Maybe you need to downsize. You have to use this method because people will not like it, so there will be conflict between the staff and management, but management have to win because that is what is right for the organization. So sometimes it can be important to use that style. And the last style I'm going to be talking about, which is the best amongst all of them, is the collaborating. In collaborating, like I said, is the best. You will check different scenarios and you choose the most suitable scenario for both parties. Well, both of them are good. So most suitable scenario is picked. But you consider all options before you choose that. So this is Kuhlman for you, and that is how he has summarized different styles of managing conflict in an organization. That will be the summary for this chapter on personal effectiveness. Please continue to like the video, share, and comment if you enjoy it. Until the next recording. Bye for now. Thank you.